What's up everyone, my name is Joshua Natea. Welcome to my first ever Top 12 video. So all growing up, I hated scary stories, but as I got older, I got more fascinated with them. So I decided to share with you my top 12 scary stories. Number 12, It's Only the House. Now this one centers around a married couple that just had their first child. They move into an old house, and everything seems fine at first. Then at night, they hear strange noises. One night, the wife wakes the husband up, and he says, "Don't worry about it, it's only the house." She refuses to let him go back to sleep until he goes and checks on the baby. He goes and checks on the baby, finds it soundly asleep in its crib. Goes and checks the rest of the house, nothing wrong. The next morning, they wake up to a foul, putrid stench. They go into the kitchen to check it out, and the oven's on. They open the oven, and the baby is in the oven. And they find a note that says it wasn't the house. Okay. Number 11. The Rake. Now, I feel a little bit bad about this, because these first two are probably going to make you paranoid enough to where you're actually going to sleep with some kind of weapon under your pillow. There are different versions of the Rake story, but the one I heard was basically a couple wakes up in the middle of the night and sees a skinny, kind of tallish, half man, half dog looking creature sitting at the foot of the bed. The creature creeps up, gets in the husband's face, then darts off to the kids' rooms. They try to catch it, but by then it's too late. They go and find their daughter, just cut up, scarred, lacerated from this creature attacking it. Just before she died, she managed to say, "He is the Rake." Number 10, Mario. I definitely feel bad about this one because it's probably going to ruin your childhood. I played two versions of the story, but I decided to use the one that centers around the original game. So, the story starts out with a man getting an old Nintendo console from his recently deceased father and a bunch of old the Nintendo games. He finds an old box that has one Nintendo cartridge with the label torn off, and it has Mario run across the front. He puts the game in, and it skips right past the opening sequence and everything right to the game. He figures, okay, it's an old cartridge, maybe it's just glitchy. He plays through and it glitches up as he expected. Then when he gets past the first castle, then Toad doesn't give him the normal, "Thank you for saving me, Mario, but the princess is in another castle" speech. He keeps playing, figuring maybe the game is glitchy or whatever, Then as it goes on, the next few levels, there's no enemies or obstacles to overcome, just flat lands leading right to the castle. Then, as it progresses, it gets kind of disturbing. The sky turns a bloodshot red, and when you step on the enemies, it doesn't make the normal sound that it does when you step on the enemies. It just makes that this nasty, like, crunching sound, like bones breaking, tendons tearing, blood splattering, what have you. He figures, okay, maybe it's some kind of sick joke, like maybe someone hacked cartridge or something. Then he gets to a certain point where Toad actually does start talking. But again, it's not the normal speech. Toad says, "Not much longer, and you can be one of us." He keeps playing on, gets to the last level, and the sky's still bloodshot red, but again, there are no obstacles or enemies or anything to overcome. Just flatlands. He finally gets to Bowser. Bowser grabs him, rips his head off, replaces his head with a toad head. Replaces him with Luigi, Peach, and some of the other famous characters, each with toad heads. Creepy, right? Still not the least part of the story. He pulls the game out and hears something growling around inside the cartridge. He ends up getting freaked out, throws the cartridge against the wall, and it shatters all over the place. There's a note inside. He picks it up, opens it, and says, hello, son. Soon you will be one of us. Creepy! Am I right? The next day, his brother brings him a cartridge that he forgot at his dad's house. It's a cartridge for number 2. But again, there's something off about this cartridge. It's got a picture of Mario, but like he's got a toad head, and he's carrying the head of the first enemy that the first boss that he faces in the game. Ugh. I mean, seriously. Creepy. And we come to number 9. 1999, that is. Yeah, I know, that was a bad joke. But, this one is one of the weirdest stories on this list. So, it centers around this old TV show that only aired a couple of episodes in 1999. One episode called Playing with Scissors, exactly what it sounds like, shows a pair of hands playing with the pair of scissors. At one point, a big hand takes the scissors and starts stabbing a smaller hand with it. Then there's a episode where a man in a bear costume does horrible things that can't even really mention on this video just because it's too gross. Anyway, the authorities end up investigating into the show and shut it down, but by this time the damage is done. And people who have seen this show have this disturbing mental scar as a result from seeing these horrible things. Yeah, that's definitely one of the more creepy stories on this list, but I honestly found other ones more compelling. Like, this one might be a little bit creepier if you hear the full story, which I didn't get into like a lot of the really big details because, well, frankly, gross. But if you actually take the time to read the full story, it's definitely one of the creepier ones on the story. But I didn't feel like it deserved a higher place on the list because it wasn't as compelling to me. It wasn't quite as interesting. Number 8, Jeff the Killer. Now, Jeff was a normal kid. Then one day, him and his brother are attacked by some of the neighborhood bullies. Jeff fights the bullies off, in the process, breaks their bones, injures some of them, and then realizes that he likes hurting people. One night, his mom hears screaming coming from the bathroom. Goes to check. He, carved a permanent smile into his face and cut out his eyelids so that he could stay awake and not have to sleep. Then he looks at his mother and says, "You lied to me, mother," after which he kills her, his father, and his brother. Disappears never to be seen again. legend has it that Jeff is still out there stalking around looking for his next victim. I personally never bought into this story just on one simple fact that if Jeff was never seen again, how do people know the last words they said to his mother? But I thought that the story was interesting enough and on some level, I guess, realistic enough to where it could conceivably happen, and I thought that maybe I should put it on the list because it does have a kind of realistic aspect. I'm just not so sure if I buy it. Number 7, Nurse Joy. Now, if you know that name, then you probably grew up right around the time that I did, when Pokemon was starting to get popular in America. Nurse Joy is a character from the Pokemon franchise, actually a group of characters who they all look and act alike. I guess they're all supposed to have their own little subtle differences that you can see if you pay close enough attention, but anyway, so they're all supposed to just be like a big family, all sisters and cousins that just happen to look alike. But this story kind of has a creepy overtone, an explanation for why the Nurse Joys are so much alike. And I'm not so sure if I buy it just because it's pretty dark, even dark for Pokemon, and it's a kid's game, but if you actually pay attention to some of the Pokédex entries, then it's kind of creepy. Anyway, this story centers around a young trainer who goes into a Pokemon Center and stays the night. In the middle of the night, Nurse Joy comes in with a gurney and injects the trainer with some kind of liquidized version of sleeping powder to make sure he stays unconscious. She straps him to the gurney and brings him to this laboratory. She starts mummifying him alive. Then she injects him with some kind of serum that causes all the organs and stuff that she removed to regenerate, then causes him to mutate into a Nurse Joy. Wakes up the next morning, no memory of who he was before, and has a overwhelming urge to work in a Pokemon Center. And apparently, the story centers around the idea that the original Nurse Joy just decided that this would be the easiest way to make sure that her work carried on. But she also took some sort of sadistic glee in torturing people. Anyway, a lot of people wonder why Joy wouldn't just clone herself, but I guess the theory works around the idea that cloning would draw too much attention, so she thought this would be easier. And again, I don't buy it. It's pretty dark, creepy, but it was interesting enough to make the list. Number 6, The Puppet Man. This one I thought was pretty compelling, but not quite as compelling as some of the ones in the top 5. But I thought it was good enough to give it at least midway through the list. So, I put it at number 6. But essentially, the story starts out with this little boy who just really wants a friend. His dad left when he was really young. His mom was a real bad alcoholic, but even without the alcohol dependency, she is just a bad person altogether. She was really selfish, just didn't care about anybody but herself. And, normally, with alcohol dependency, it can cause, bad behavior and, selfish behavior, but with her, she was an all-around, bad person. Anyway, so the boy, to cope with not really having any friends, like, creates all these imaginary friends. One in particular he calls the Puppet Man because he's a skilled puppet maker. He could make the boy a puppet in any shape that he wanted, to look like anyone, in any design, whatever. He was just a really good puppet maker. But the Puppet Man never talked. The way it's described as being kind of tall, gray skin, long, skinny fingers, and just kind of a generally uneasy looking appearance. And the boy talks to the Puppet Man at night, and the Puppet Man stays with him until he falls asleep. And as he gets older, the boy starts giving up on his imaginary friends and decides, it's time to grow up and past these childish things. His older brother moves out, and they never hear from him again. Then one day, his mom goes into a fit of rage after losing her job. Then she starts yelling at him, throwing furniture, whatever. She just has a major freak out. He goes to his room, and there's the Puppet Man. For the first time in a long time, he talks to the Puppet Man, and for the first time ever, the Puppet Man talks back. Puppet Man says, "Your mom is evil." The boy says, "No, she's not evil," tries to defend her, but he really doesn't have a leg to stand on. His mom is just an all-around bad person. Even without the alcohol dependence, she is a bad person. She's not just selfish, she just doesn't have any real redeeming qualities that, like, you could say, it's just the alcohol talking. If she could get cleaned up, she'd be so much better off. No, she is just, like, that bad. And the Puppet Man can tell. The boy can too, but he is really just in denial. Of course, he's going to want to defend his mom. But the Puppet Man says to the boy, "Just go to sleep. I'll go talk to your mother." The boy does as he says, and then gets woken up by a loud scream. Goes to check out, sees his mom dangling in midair, suspended on nothing. Then he starts seeing, like, these golden strings appear, then, like, the Puppet Man appears holding the strings. And the boy starts screaming for the Puppet Man to let it go, but he won't. He just wants to kill the boy's mom. He has so much malice in his heart for the boy's mom, for everything that she's done to her sons, and he refuses to let it go. And the boy watches in horror as the Puppet Man makes his mother, like, do this, like, creepy marionette show, and ultimately causing all of her bones to break. Then the Puppet Man disappears. The neighbors hear the boy screaming out in horror and call the cops. They come and find the mom dead on the floor, and the boy just recoiled in terror, just feared it. And everyone tries to convince the boy that there was no Puppet Man, that the mom tried to hang herself, then the rope snapped, causing her to break all her bones when she hit the ground, and that's what killed her. But the boy knows what he saw. At the funeral, he really just has a general sense of detachment. He was upset when it happened, but at the same time, it kind of hit him how bad his mom was, and that maybe he was better off without her. He's looking around and he doesn't see any family or anything. She alienated everyone, and he comes to the realization that this is the funeral that she deserves. Then he sees a gray hand reach out and touch his, and looks up, sees the Puppet Man. Puppet Man just gives him a little grin, and the boy just moves on from there. Okay, so I had to make a little change of venue because it's about lunchtime, so everyone's here, so... Anyway, so I had to move it to my room, and just in case you might notice, I have some Taylor Swift pictures on my wall. It's actually a collage that I made, inspired by this collage that my sister made of Audrey Hepburn. Hepburn. I never knew how to pronounce her name, but... Anywho... so... You know, I'm going to film the rest of this video in my room. So let's move on with number 5, Laughing Jack. This one is uber creepy. I am very creeped out by this one. There's this woman who hears her son talking, and she goes to see who he's talking to, and he's talking to his imaginary friend. She asks him about his imaginary friend, and he says that his name is Laughing Jack. He's like a really tall clown, and he's got like black and white makeup, like real unnerving. It's got sharp fangs, this little spiral that protrudes outward from his nose, and it's real unnerving. The woman, like, she's creeped out, but she doesn't really give it a second thought. But as time goes by, the boy tells her about some of the stuff that him and Laughing Jack talk about, and she's real creeped out, and she doesn't want him talking to Laughing Jack anymore. He, of course, being a little kid, ignores her, continues to talk to Laughing Jack. One day she hears a noise coming from his room and goes to investigate, and he's like hung up on the wall, like cut open, his intestines are hanging out, and just generally gross, nasty scene, just and horrifying, just completely just terrible scene. Something no parent should ever have to see. Just horrible. Anyway, so she tries to get the boy down, then she is attacked by Laughing Jack. She tries to fight him off, but he disappears when she goes to strike him. And then the police come because somebody heard noise and called. Found the boy there, thought it was the mom. She tells them about Laughing Jack, and they think that she's gone crazy. So they send her to a mental institution where she spends the rest of her days telling anyone who will listen about Laughing Jack. Anyway, so I guess like the ultimate outcome of the story is basically like she's writing the whole thing down while she's institutionalized. Number 4, Krampus. Now, Krampus is a creature like Santa Claus that visits on Christmas. Krampus is a larger creature, goat legs, horns, and whatnot. And he wakes the kids up in the middle of the night and beats them for their bad behavior. The worst kids are never seen again. So you can only imagine what Krampus does. It implies that Krampus kills the kids, but doesn't really say. Who knows, maybe Krampus Krampus keeps the kids, I don't know. But I thought that this one was personally interesting to me because I don't have any kids, but you know, all growing up my mom babysitted other kids, so you know, I was raised around a lot of kids in addition to my older brothers and my sister and all the kids that my mom was always babysitting. So, you know, I could kind of understand on some level why parents would want to create a story that would kind of reinforce good behavior. I wouldn't endorse lying to kids, but I do kind of see the point in like wanting to find a way to reinforce good behavior. Number 3. We're entering the home stretch with the story that actually kind of inspired me to make this list. But essentially, like, the story is the confession. And the story is told from the point of view of a man who is dying, who wants to confess his sins on his deathbed. And he was part of a group called the Gazers, which was a underground, not really a cult, a subculture, but like this group of people that shared information. They each worked in a different public service trades, like mailmen, gardeners, and what have you. And they each shared information from people on the routes or the clients, whatever, and they could either sell the information or use it for different crimes. There's a group that just steals, there's a group that kidnaps kids, there's a group that murders people, and so the man is writing down a confession, hoping to find leniency in the next life for the sins that he has committed in this life. And the man, even towards the end, expresses that he realizes it's futile, but he's going to try to take any opportunity he can. And then he says that if he had any advice for non-gazers as to how to handle gazers next time you see a public service person, you give them a smile. And if they grin back, then congratulations, you just smiled at a gazer. Or if they give you a big, toothy, creepy smile, just real frightening, disturbing looking, then you may have just invited what they call the Picassos, which is a very bad thing, something you do not want. Number 1, Tiki Toby. Now, Toby was a boy who was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome, and the bullies at his school called him Tiki Toby because, I don't know if you know what Tourette's is, but it is a really common illness in a way. A lot of people do know about it, but for those of you who don't know, it's a illness that causes you to have these little tics. Some people blurt out obscenities at random points, not able to control it. Some people the muscles spasm and jerk, just stuff like that. Well, anyway, so the bullies picked on him because of his Tourette's, and his dad was real selfish, neglectful, kind of abusive in a way. Never really went off and horribly beat them, but he was real he was not a good person or a good father at all. He just not good, Anyway, so Toby, his mom and sister were kind of car accident. His mom was fine afterwards. He was beaten up and had to be hospitalized, and his sister was killed. When he gets home, he starts having these weird, what he thinks are dreams. He, one night he gets up, he looks out his window and sees this really tall man, almost as tall as the street, standing there looking up at him. Man's got no facial expressions, his arms dangled down real low, just really just unnerving, really just disturbing. Anyway, so Toby starts hallucinating, he sees sharks in his sink and and his mom ends up, like, getting him a therapist appointment, and he starts, like, hallucinating while he's seeing the therapist. It's just, like, you know, just a general sense of uneasiness with Toby. Anyway, so one night, he gets out of bed, and at this point, it's like he's aware of everything that he's doing, but it's not quite registering, like somebody else is kind of behind the wheel. He, like, walks out into into the hallway, goes down the stairs, sees his dad watching the TV on this little counter TV that he has set up. He walks up behind him, pulls out a knife, grabs his dad, turns him around, pushes him down, and his dad sees that he has the knife. His dad starts begging him to put the knife down. Toby freaks out, jumps on top of his dad, and starts pummeling him. His dad tries to defend himself and tries to take the knife away from Toby, but ends up with Toby ending up killing his dad. His mom walks out, sees what happens, screams out at the top of her lungs, "Toby, what'd you do?" Toby runs out. As he's running out, he sees two axes that his dad has. One sharp, one old and dull. He grabs them, then grabs a gas canister, runs out, sees the cops, pours out the gas as he's running. Then, as he is running, he lights a fire, expecting to kill himself in the fire. Runs out into the woods, and the woods, like, light up all around him. Then, he feels a hand touching his shoulder. He looks up and sees the Slender Man, which was the figure that Toby had seen standing out his window. And then the fire kind of engulfs all around him. Then a few weeks later, his mom is staying at her sister's. She's watching TV, and this newscast comes on saying that four teenagers were murdered in the woods. That they only had one clue to go on, and that was an axe that the killer had left. An old, dull axe. And they said that Toby was a suspect because they thought that he had died in the fire, but they had been looking into the idea that maybe he had escaped. And that axe kind of reinforced the idea that maybe Toby was still out there, and he was the one that killed these teenagers. Anyway, so the reason I pointed out that it was Slender Man that Toby had seen was pretty simple. I felt that if I was doing a story about, if I was doing a list of scary stories and didn't mention Slender Man, then people might get a little angry. Like, a lot of people were just real unmoved by Slender Man. I thought that Toby himself was a lot more interesting of a character than Slender Man. Don't get me wrong, old Slendy does kind of creep me out, but I thought Toby was a much more interesting character. But that's only my opinion. Anyways, so I decided to focus on Toby as opposed to Slender Man, but Slender Man is a part of the story. Maybe even the reason that Toby ended up going kind of insane there at the end. But, who knows? I don't really buy into most of these stories, and to me that's exactly what they are, stories. And the Toby story, to me, is a very intriguing story. Maybe if you hear the whole story or read the whole story, it's kind of slow building, but ultimately it does have a really interesting story to it. So I thought it deserved to be here. Anyway, so, but that's just my personal opinion. I personally thought that the story was compelling enough, that Toby was interesting enough as a character, and if you want to hear the whole Toby story, then I will put a link to the creepypasta that I learned the story from in the description. Okay, number 2, The Thief. This story is kind of a man bragging about the bad things that he's done. He expresses that he doesn't really feel guilt or anything for what he's done. He actually enjoys what he does. He is a criminal, a thief, who one day went into a old antique shop and tries to steal a watch, thinking that the man behind the desk, an elderly man who isn't looking at him, can't see what he's doing. As he's walking out, he feels something smacking into the back of his head really hard, drops to the ground, and when he comes to, he sees the old man standing between him and the door. The old man is holding a knife and says, "You should really know who you're stealing from before you try to take things that don't belong to you. You were right in the view of my camera when you put that watch in your pocket." The man gets to his feet and doesn't want to fight the old man because he's got a knife. Also, even though he is elderly, he is a very large man, a very strong-looking individual, and he doesn't want a fight. He doesn't want to end up getting hurt. So he asks the man if there's any way that they could settle this without violence or the police getting involved in anything, and the man says that there is a church at the top of the hill and that he is friends with the preacher. If he went to the church and confessed and did his penance, then he'd drop the whole thing. He figures, okay, go tell the preacher what I've done, say a couple of Hail Marys, leave. Well, he goes, does the confessional. The preacher kind of takes a little bit of time to get started. Then, once he does, he actually kind of enjoys having the preacher kind of just having to sit there and listen to all the bad stuff that he's done and not be able to do a damn thing about it. He's just really enjoying gloating about this to the preacher. Afterwards, the preacher says, "Is that all?" Then he says, with a kind of smirk and a real cocky tone in his voice, "Yeah, I think that about covers it." So then the preacher gives him a rosary. It's all black stone, and it's got a little statue that he assumes is supposed to be Jesus. And the preacher says that repentance will take about 5 years. He puts the rosary on, and in a real cocky tone says, 5 years? Okay, what I gotta do? Like 2 Our Fathers and a Hail Mary every week? What have you got for me? The old preacher says, it's not gonna be that easy. He can feel the rosary start to dig into his neck. And at this point, he starts to get really uneasy feeling. And the preacher says, "Here, Our Father has nothing to do with this. Neither does the Holy Mother. You are answering to another power now." And at this point, the thief is really starting to get creeped out. He's really just like, wait, what's going on? The preacher says that in order to atone for his past crimes, he has to bring him a human heart once or twice a month. And the thief is really starting to feel unnerved here. The preacher says that he has to actually kill somebody. And it can't just be anyone. It has to be somebody that did something nice for the thief at some point. And the thief is really kind of like has a million thoughts running through his head at this point, and he is really just unnerved at this point, and he's just like trying to establish ground rules on this. He asks a few different questions. I can't remember them all, but like one of them he says, well, what constitutes a good deed, a kindness? And the preacher says it could be anyone, just somebody that opened the door for you, somebody that smiled at you, somebody that just did one random act of kindness. Even a doctor's checkup qualifies as a kind act in these ground rules. Then another one of the questions that the thief asks, because at this point he's pretty sure that that's not Jesus at the bottom of the rosary. He says, okay, so who's this? And the preacher says, that's your new Lord, and he does not have the patience that I do. Bring me the heart, or you will die. I just remembered the other questions that he asked. There were two more. One of them was, okay, well, what if I don't? The preacher says, you can feel the rosary digging at your neck, can't you? If you don't bring me the hearts, they will dig in a little bit more and a little bit more. It will take 5 years to reach your heart, but every time that you bring me a heart, one of the beads will fall off, and eventually you will be left with nothing but the chain. It will do no harm to you, but you will not be able to take it off. And so then the final question that the thief asked was, okay, well, what about the money, the jewels, whatever? If you only want the heart, can I have whatever they have on them when I kill them? The preacher gets this like real sadistic smile and says, as long as I get the heart, you can take whatever you want and do whatever you want with the body. I don't care, just bring me the heart. So, he kills a couple of people, brings the heart to the preacher, and after a certain point, he actually kind of gets a natural sense for murdering people. He actually ends up, like, coming to the realization that there's big bucks in getting the rich people to show some sort of kindness or pity. Figures out that the easiest way to get rich people to be nice to him is to be polite. People are suckers for manners. So he ends up like getting all this money, everything that he wants out of these new horrific crimes that he's committing. And he tells his memoirs just so that he can gloat, so that he can brag to people and just enjoy the fact that these people have done these people have to listen to his, like, these atrocities that he's committed, and that even though they might want to, there's nothing they can do to stop him. He gets off on that, and so that's kind of why why this story got so high up on the list, because it is a disturbing story, and really the main character of the story is the villain, and he really makes you hate him by reinforcing the fact that he is a horrible person all throughout. Okay, so that's it. And keep in mind that this is only my personal opinion of the most compelling stories. There are a lot of other scary stories out there, and these are the ones that I learned by reading, by word of mouth, by seeing videos depicting the story on YouTube, you know, just like kind of little random bits I've kind of gathered through really just the last couple of years, because that's when I really got into like scary stories, creepy urban legends, and whatnot. So if you're interested, then I will put a link to a website that has various creepypastas on it in the description. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I do not have a Facebook fan page. I just barely started YouTubing, and you know, that's really the first thing that I really started to really do. I have a Twitter account. I might put the link to my Twitter page in the description if you want to follow. I don't have an Instagram account or anything. You know, if you want to follow me, just follow me on Twitter. Follow me on YouTube, and subscribe to me on YouTube. And you know, if you have any personal favorite creepypastas or scary stories, creepy urban legends that you like, please share in the comment below. Other than that, you know, that's about it. Oh, I actually kind of wanted to start doing kind of a question of the day thing for each of my videos. So, you know, question of the day. What's under your bed? Other than that, rock on. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and try not to think about this before you go to bed. Yeah, just try to blank these out as much as you can before you go to bed. Okay. Oh, and just, you know, this is pretty much my first recorded video other than, like, I did the Ice Bucket Challenge. You know, so, oh, then I also did a couple, like, little funny short skits that I liked. But you know, this is the first video I've done of this kind, so, you know, I'm sorry if the quality wasn't really high, but, you know, I'm really kind of working this out. I'm trying to kind of build up what I want to do for this page. You know, I really hope that you guys enjoy the video. Please throw me a thumbs up and subscribe.